I scammed through every file the Department of War released last week, all 161 of them. Took most of the weekend. I want to walk you through what I found. Most coverage of this release missed the interesting cases. They're not the Apollo files. They're not the Roswell memos. The interesting cases are modern eyewitness reports from American test sites, a helicopter chase from last year, and FBI photos taken in the western US that nobody can identify. But the part that stopped me was buried inside the FBI section. No FRAD, no crawl out, no press coverage. 2 people died in 1947 investigating wannabe sightings. Federal investigators carrying physical fragments back from a UFO case. Their plane crashed, both pilots killed. The Department of War released the file, nobody noticed. And here's what I keep thinking. If there's one confirmed death buried this deep in the record, how many more never made it into the file at all? But at the end of this video, you'll see a few cases I think are notable, the high-level stats nobody's reported yet, and a pattern I started seeing. This is part 1. There's too much in this release for one video. Part 2 is coming. Start with a standout. September 1st, 2023, a U.S. test site. 3 named American witnesses gave Swan FBI 302 interviews. Object ellipsoid, metallic bongs. Between 130 and 195 feet long, materialized from a flash of bright light, disappeared instantaneously. The FBI lab took the corroborating witness accounts and overlaid a CGI rendering on the actual photograph of the test site. That composite sketch is what's on war.gov right now. The Pentagon's own caption, quote, actual site photo with FBI lab rendered graphic overlay depicting corroborating eyewitness reports from September 2023 of an apparent ellipsoid bronze metallic object materializing out of a bright light in the sky, 130 to 195 feet in length, and disappearing instantaneously. That's the Department of War's caption, not a tabloid, their own words. 4 files released about this single event. No other case has this many supporting documents. Next case, late 2025. A senior U.S. intelligence official sat down with the FBI. The interview transcript is in the release. He was searching with other federal and state personnel in an area where orbs had been seen before. They went up in a helicopter. They found a super hot orb hovering over the ground. It took off and traveled 20 miles at a speed too fast for the helicopter to keep up. Then 4 or 5 more orbs appeared, flaring up and flaring down for 30 straight minutes. Senior intelligence official. Sworn statement. Department of War published it. 3rd case, and this is the one. Of all 161 files, the Department of War flagged exactly one with a phrase the others don't get. The official war.gov description on this file says, quote, among the most compelling within AARO's current holdings. That phrase appears in only one description out of 161 files. The file is called Western U.S. Event. 2 days in 2023, Western United States, 7 U.S. federal employees separately reporting 4 kinds of phenomena across those 2 days. Orbs launching other orbs at distance. A large stationary glowing orb at close range. They pursued a large phenomenon near the ground. And finally, a large transparent shade they could only describe as a translucent kite. 7 federal employees, 2 days. The Department of War flagged this one specifically. They didn't flag any of the others. Now the deaths. Buried in Section 2 of the FBI case file. No call out on war.gov. No press coverage. I had it big. Captain William Davidson and Lieutenant Frank M. Brown. 4th Air Force Counterintelligence Corps. July 31st, 1947. They interviewed 2 civilians at the Winthrop Hotel in Tacoma about a UFO sighting at Maury Island. August 1st, 1947, around 2:50 a.m., their B-25 bomber crashed near Kelso, Washington. They were carrying recovered disc fragments from the case back to Hamilton Field in California. The crew chief and a hitchhiker bailed out. Davidson and Brown didn't escape. The investigation found no sabotage. That's the only confirmed casualty event across all 161 files. 2 federal investigators dead. Carrying physical evidence. Plane goes down. The federal government held this file for 78 years. The Department of War released it last week. The official description doesn't even mention the deaths. That bothered me, because if there are 2 confirmed deaths buried that deep, how many more never made it in? Now the stats nobody's reporting. 161 total files. 82 of them are Department of War. 51% of the entire release is modern Pentagon. By decade, the 2020s account for 72 files. Compare that to 10 files from the 60s, 5 from the 50s, 5 from the 70s, and 4 from the 40s. 34 incidents in 2025 alone. More than the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s combined. The most recent incident in the release is dated March 23rd, 2026. 6 weeks before this release dropped. This isn't history, this is now. Here's the pattern that hit me about halfway through. Almost every modern military file traces back to the same unit. The M29 Reaper drone, almost all of them from the 432nd Air Expeditionary Wing, the centralized Reaper unit. Now I looked at where they were taken. Of the 28 actual UAP videos in the release, Arabian Gulf 7, Syria 5, Greece 3, UAE and Gulf of Oman 3, Iraq 2, Africa 1, Middle East General 4, the Strait of Hormuz, the Arabian Gulf, the UAE, that's CENTCOM territory, the same waterway where U.S. Navy destroyers fired on Iranian forces last week. The declassification authority on every one of those modern files is the same person, Major General Richard A. Harrison, U.S. CENTCOM Chief of Staff. He personally signed off on every release between October 2025 and March 2026. The same officer running U.S. military operations in the Strait that's currently in active conflict is the officer who decided which UAP files the public would see this month. That stopped me. I went back through every modern file just to confirm CENTCOM, MQ-9 Reaper, 432nd Wing. Same source, same region, same B classifier, same waterway. That's the pattern. I'm not drawing the conclusion in this video. Part 2 is going to dig into what that concentration means, who Major General Harrison is, and why the officer running combat operations in the Strait is the officer who decided which UAP files Americans would read. I'm also going to walk through the State Department tables nobody covered, including a 1963 National Space Council memo about, quote, the space alien race question, and a 1994 incident over Kazakhstan involving a Boeing 747. That's part 2. Coming this week, the U.S. government's official term for everything in this release is one word: unresolved. They released the files. They didn't release the answer. Economic Ninja is out. End of report.